middleweight champion of the world.
You don't know shit about boxing.
Hi and welcome to episode 2 of You Don't Know Shit About Boxing, in association with absolutely no one because we haven't got any sponsors yet, hint hint, but a podcast brought to you by SecondsOut, here with Georgia Banks.
Hello, thanks for having me on again.
Well, you are the co-host, it'd be a bit rubbish without you, to be honest, but
I'm just here.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasantries out the way, we're very excited. Obviously, there was a huge fight at the weekend, which we'll be talking about, between Lee Wood and Michael Conlon. We're still buzzing from that. But we've got an incredible guest, only in episode 2. I'm worried we're setting the bar too high. But yeah, he needs no introduction, but we're giving him one anyway.
St. George!
I think he doesn't know what it is.
Groves!
Jules Groves, delighted to have you here.
Welcome.
I think that walk-in needs a bit of work. And I think season 2 it might not be here, but
you know, they say like the trainer makes the fighter or the fighter makes the trainer. I think the fighter makes the ring walk.
yeah, okay, yeah. Throw the blame at me then. Yeah.
It is a little bit of a jungle down there, so you have to give it to you a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks.
I'll be on your
But thanks for having us on. I'm looking forward to a chat, a nice chat. That's what we do in boxing. There's chat. So let's go for it.
What are you up to at the moment? I guess it's, what are you up to coming on this podcast? Fees
Not a lot, you know. Whatever, guys. No, a bit. Not a lot. I dip my boxing toe in and get my boxing fix from spending wonderful time with you guys and talking boxing, watching a bit of boxing from time to time. I pop down my amateur club, Dale Youth, whenever I can. So I try and get down there most Sundays now. We've got some good lads coming through.
Is your picture on the wall?
No, it's not, because those who know. So I trained. Our gym was at the bottom of Grenfell Tower, which is obviously sadly burnt down. And DIY SOS, Nick Knowles and the team, they came in. They built a wonderful new gym under the Westway there in sort of Ladbroke Grove Way. And no, our picture's not up on the wall. But all the lads are in there. I don't want my picture up on the wall.
Is the gal's picture up on the wall?
No, but I haven't seen it yet. Maybe it is. If it is, then I'll have to go and put mine next to it and slightly bigger. You know,
got a little moustache on.
Yeah.
We did a documentary on the channel actually about Dale Youth and the Grenfell Tower stuff and the rebuild and all that. It's amazing how it looks now under the Westway.
Yeah, it's a beautiful new gym there. You know, the community came out and you know, they strive together, and it's a wonderful gym. You know, it's Mick Delaney, my old club coach, is still there, 70 odd years of age, still ducking and diving, slipping and sliding. He's got lads to say in the ABAs. There's some real good talent in there right now. So and then I don't even get to see the juniors that are coming through. They're on there on different nights. So it's nice. That's as I say, that's how I get my little boxing fix. I take my pads down there, try and tell them what to do.
Do they listen?
Yeah, they do. Whether I'm worth listening to or not, I don't know. But no, they do. And you've got to bridge that gap, you know, because I've been through the process and I've ended up at the sort of, you know, the high-end pro stuff, 12-round championship fight. That's not the same sort of training you want to get these guys who are going to be, you know, 3 rounds max, just in there. You got to make it count. You got to win the exchanges. You got to hit and not get hit, but you don't always have that luxury time of, you know, setting up the shots and stuff like this. So bridge the gap, try and bridge the gap, and then I try and keep up with them when they run on the hills as well, which I can't.
You enjoy it.
Love it, absolutely love it. It's it's purely selfish. I do it for my, you know, for my own love. Yeah, my own. I get to see Mickey and the old boys that are, like the old coaches that are still there. So that's like nice for me. And then seeing who's coming through, and you'll get some kids, and you learn like through boxing that you need to have a bit of everything to get to the top end. But you can see lots of diamonds in the rough coming through, and there'll be one kid, and he don't quite believe in himself yet, but he punches like, you know, Tommy Hearns. You're like, just get in a bit more often, you know. Or there'll be a kid there who, you know, he's just living and breathing it, and you're like, right, next phase for you, we're going to get you in the, you know, get you lifting some weights, get you strong, get your base sorted, get this, get that, get your fitness up, stuff like this, and just keep matching them and bringing them along. So, but again, I'm walk that tightrope of interfering, because I only pop down there, you know. I'm not yet to, don't have my coaching badges yet. I'm not like out on the shows, so I just throw a little a little bit of experience, and then hopefully it sticks.
Is that in the pipeline for you, coaching badges?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think so. I'll pop like Shane McGuigan, who's my old amateur old pro coach. I was down in the gym with him the other week, just watching the lads, and I can see like how tough it is. You know how tough it is to be a pro coach. So again, you can't really do that in the pros. You can't just show up ad hoc a little bit, give a little bit, and actually be responsible for someone. So I can't really see that quite being me anytime soon. But I do enjoy it, as well as getting to the fights. When that stuff comes up. I covered a Coley the other week for BBC on the radio. So. That's great fun. Again, just like this, you give your opinions. Just sitting there giving an opinion, telling someone else how to do their job, and then TV stuff comes up. That's great fun.
Did you have a long, in-depth conversation with Daniel Dubois while you were at Shane's gym?
Yeah, no, Daniel and Sister Caroline, they're both there. Daniel, I haven't quite seen his full personality yet. He's very reserved, or at least he comes across like that.
You think you haven't, but you have.
But
he's a quiet guy.
I think he's starting. It's taken him a little while to come out of his shell in the gym, but he's he's there. It's quite. I like the atmosphere there because everyone gets on. Everyone's great, but they're not. It's not like it's not quite. Everyone's quite in bed with each other. Do you know what I mean? You got the Lawrence Okoli who's world champion now, but he comes in and does his work, and Dubois family come in, they do their work, and then there's other lads like Fowler and Robbie Davis Jr. Ellie Scottney's in there. She's fantastic.
She talks enough for all of them.
She the Catford.
It's actually her birthday today, I should mention.
Oh, is it?
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ellie.
I think she's 24, maybe 23. I could be wrong, but yeah, it's definitely her birthday.
She could be 22. I think she's
she could be 12.
Yeah, well, she's brilliant. Chris Billam-Smith in their European champion. So I was watching him spar the other day. Chris is like old stock now. Like he was there when I was there.
He used to be one of your main sparring partners, didn't he?
At the end, yeah, we had him in there. I mean, he was cause he was a big lump and he was always up for it. If he was ever short of sparring, he'd be more than ready and willing to assist me, and then since then he's just gone strength to strength. Obviously all them beatings, I just have to toughen him up and taught him everything he knows, and now he's European champion. He's got a rematch coming up with McCarthy, but he'll be pushing on for bigger and better things in this year. So it's a great stable. It's great fun to be down there, but long way of answering. I don't think I'm quite going to be a pro coach yet.
Now, before your somewhat underwhelming ring walk, we were talking about Leigh Wood, Michael Conlon, which is an absolutely gripping fight over the weekend. Didn't end the way Conlon would have wanted, of course, but just explosive finish to what was an amazing fight. What did you make of it?
Amazing fight. Absolutely amazing fight. And I can say that honestly, like sometimes you have to be excited about fights that don't quite hit the target, but that was definitely a fight that was gripping. I think Conlon was superb. He was awesome. He got his tactics right. Against the Nottingham man, I saw a few similarities to some things that I've experienced in the past. He put Wood over in the first round heavy. And I think obviously he's got great chin, Wood, and he's still fresh in the fight. First round, he gets up, but he looks gone. He's gone, and Conlon. He was showing to the body with the southpaw stance. It's the left hand, showing to the body, changing the angle. Sometimes it came out a little bit straight. Sometimes he put an angle on it. And then he would show low and then he'd change it to a headshot. And Wood just couldn't figure that out for the whole night. But Conlon, he didn't even unravel. It wasn't like, sure, he must have been tired, but I think nowhere near as tired as Wood would have been through taking the shots. Held his form really well when he was on the ropes and he was weathering attacks. He didn't really make that many mistakes. I had him way up on the cards. I know, I'm not sure what the judges had on the night, but and Bellew's card was kind of tight and it come the last round because he had the 10-8 from getting dropped in 11th, but I only had him drop in, got rid on my phone, maybe three or so rounds. And then one of those rounds, he actually lands the best shot in the round, but he just kind of gets a little bit outworked. So I feel real sorry for him. Happy as a fighter, you'd be happy for Wood to just sustain the punishment and get through there, and then just get that that one shot, that equaliser shot that just turned Conlon's lights out. It was it was my fight with Froch, the first fight, and the second fight in one fight. I mean, what's there not to like, you know? So boxing is brutal. It's horrible at times in terms of for the fighters, and for Conlon to essentially make a mistake by getting caught with that shot. But you know, to be in a real fight and to perform in your first world, I think it is his first world title fight, right up until almost the dying seconds in the last round, and then get caught with that shot, and then the fight is over. Obviously, it has everything, that fight. It has absolutely everything. And if you are just starting to watch boxing and you see that fight, how would you not sort of fall in love with it? As brutal as the fight was, but terrific performance from both guys. Sad that there was a loser as such, and it's going to be really, really hard for Conlon now to come back from that. But he needs to show the grit and resilience of a champion. Keep again, I'm talking about myself again, but yeah, have unwavering self-belief, right, on one side, and resilience on the other, and you need both to get to the top and stay at the top. And sometimes some fighters need it just to get to the top, and he's going to be one of them guys. You know, he's going to have to come back from whatever he goes on to do is going to be hard to top. You know, that experience that he would have had Saturday night. So to come back from that, he's going to have to show confidence and resilience, and I hope he does. I hope he does, because he boxed really well that night, and he came out to Jimi Hendrix all along the Watchtower. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's a Bob Dylan track, you know, and it's hard to pick someone who can cover a Bob Dylan and almost do it better, but maybe it was Jimmy, and it was so good, wasn't it? So, he had my vote from the get-go. It was a tremendous fight.
So Mick Conlon's unlikely to get immediate return, but this week's topic is rematches. You've not just been brought in for your good looks and undoubted charm, sorry to say.
That's okay.
You've obviously got a lot of experience in rematches. We're going to look ahead to Kiko Martinez and Josh Warrington going at it again. But you're most famous, I think it's fair to say, for the 2 fights you shared with Carl Froch, who's now like your best friend. And you can see some of the pictures. We've got obviously the first one from the first fight, where he's kind of offering the hand of friendship 10 years too early or whatever, 5 years too early. You don't look particularly impressed.
Yeah, he's pointing at me. I don't know. I can't remember what he's saying, but he's pointing at me. Yep.
And that was that must have been one of the toughest nights of your career, because it was your best performance ever in the first fight, and then for it to end the way it did, you must have been devastated.
Yeah, pretty devastated. And yeah, no, it was awful. First time that first loss in pro career. First, you know, I had a few things throughout my time in boxing that hadn't gone my way, but this is the first loss, and at the time it's like me versus the world. You know, I'd sort of I'd been sort of managed and trained and even promoted sort of exclusively by Haymaker Boxing, which was David Hay and Adam Booth, and had to separate from them 10 weeks out, find a new coach, find a new premises to train in, sort of
should have had him on last week for the changing trainers.
Take care of all my managerial obligations and stuff like that. So, and everyone knew I had to go it alone as such. So, to get that far, to put in a real good performance, to be on the verge of achieving my childhood dream, and then to have it sort of, which felt like snatched away unjustly, was terrible. Something that I didn't really kind of probably process it. Definitely didn't process it properly at the start. I didn't even feel it because everyone treated me like I hadn't lost, but the truth was that I did. I wasn't a world champion. There was a loss on my record. Went off to New Jersey. I mean, I've said this story a million times. But off to New Jersey to appeal with the IBF, get reinstated as mandatory. So it felt like, well, next fight is going to be a world title fight, and people most people look like, oh, well, he's going to get a world title shot next. You know, they talk about Catterall and Josh Taylor, and Catterall gets robbed against Taylor. Like, I'm putting it out there. Don't know if anyone else felt the same.
A lot of people did.
So yeah, he had a chance to fulfill his lifelong dream and not just become world champion. His chance was to be undisputed, win every single belt, something that comes along almost never. And people will say, well, Taylor will move up. He'll definitely get a shot at another world title fight, even if he doesn't get his rematch. Like, that's not good enough. That's not good enough for a fighter like that. Talk about Conlon now. It's going to be hard to come back from losses. It's hard to come back from big losses. And if he gets an immediate rematch, I think that's great for us as the fans because it was a great fight. We'd love to see it again. We'd love to see what could be different. Would Lee have to totally change his tactics coming in, knowing that it didn't work for him at all? You can't rely on biting down the gum shield and weathering the storm. Would Conlon come in different? But it takes a lot out of you to even go back to the well. For the same fight, for the same camp, it would feel like in some ways. So rematches are tough. I think Froch was the only rematch that I had, and it was back to back. So there was no space in between like you've got with Warrington and Martinez. Look him up. He's only 36, but it feels like he's been around forever. I think he boxed Rendell Monroe in 2009 or something like that. So he's been on people's radar for a long, long time, and he boxed Warrington a good few fights ago. So even though these two are going to go in and fight, it might be a totally different fight. Martinez is sort of a little bit revitalized. Great win over Kid Galahad, and Warrington's had a bit of a rebuild as well, hasn't he? He's had a couple of losses now, so it'll be a fascinating fight. But rematches are tough. They are tough. I think mentally it's got to be tough to go and prepare for the same person again, because boxing's grueling. Like, as you know, Georgia, you get punched in the ribs from time to time. Sometimes you're not even boxing. You told me that you get
Don't worry, all my secrets.
So it's tough, and then to prep for to put yourself through the mill and do the same thing over and over again for something that you feel like you've already done. It's maybe the fighter who sort of copes with that the best is the one who'll be best prepared for it. So, but we as fans, sometimes the fights have to be made twice, sometimes more than twice, and we might see a different outcome. But if everything goes the way it should go, then it should just go to the form book, won't be the same results, but we will see.
I had a conversation with Cole between the two fights that you guys shared, and he probably won't remember this now or deny remembering it if he does, but he was weighing up his options. I think it was you, an Andre Ward rematch, or Chavez Jr. at the time. And I think you were kind of last choice for him. He said he didn't want to give you the opportunity. So there was still obviously some bitterness there. He also admitted that Andre Ward would beat him again on points, but he'll never admit to that now.
Yeah, I mean, that first fight with me and Froch was for him. It was a nightmare, wasn't it? He got loads of stick, and he got bashed up. I doubt it'd be in a rush. No one would be in a rush to get that again. And he might have been just in the build-up wondering, if this is the same fight again, how do I do anything different? And he hadn't, apart from money, nothing to show for it. So the Ward fight, he definitely would have wanted to avenge that loss. I would have, and the Chavez fight. For people who don't know, he's talking about Chavez Jr.
Yeah, not senior.
There was a son who boxed, and he's always fat and out of shape and always sticking illegal substances up his nose and stuff like that. So, and he's a massive name in America, so you can fly out there and fight him, and he's had to crash the weight for 2 weeks. He's sleeping off however many pounds to make the weight, and then it's a much easier fight for good money.
He never used to like flights though, did he, Cole? He used to have a bit of bad luck.
Yeah. So I sparred him before he went on the ash cloud. Do you remember the infamous ash cloud? We've moved on a long way of
was that the infamous sparring where you dropped him?
No, he dropped me
Oh,
the
no, he
week
dropped
before,
you,
and then
sorry.
I came back and I bashed him up the following spar. And then the ash cloud came. I think that spar might have started the ash cloud, especially in his world. I just remember sitting down with Rob, the trainer, and they're both looking at each other, and you could just visualise like a little ash cloud coming down over them. And he must have the weight of the world on his shoulders anyway at that point, because he was trying to figure out how to get to Helsinki or somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, I think they were going to get a rowboat, and Lee, the brother, was gonna paddle it for him, pedalo. But
Luckily the world's flat.
yeah. So yeah, there we are.
But the rematch, you can see from the pictures there, absolutely unprecedented at the time. Amazing, you know, packed into Wembley. Carl never tires of reminding people, you know, packed house. I've always wanted to ask you, the result obviously didn't go your way, and we can talk about that, but does that kind of compensate for it in any way? Obviously not at the time, but now when you look back.
Yeah, now it does. You know, when I was fighting, when I was preparing for both the fights with Froch, he was talking about legacy. And that was a word I always shied away from. I felt like it was a bit cringe and didn't really sit well with me, especially because I'm still on my journey. I'm still trying to, you know, carve out what I will be. And it's an opinion sport, you know. So how do you measure your success? You know, you can't measure it off how many fans and followers you got, because they don't stick around forever and stuff like that. But for us, me and Carl, this is something that we can look back on and say, well, you know, we made history at that point in time. You know, it was post-war attendance record for boxing. It was a huge fight for British boxing, and it captured the public's imagination. It was front and back page news, and to some degree, and you know, it was definitely a significant chapter in boxing's history in the UK, and it's kicked on. Obviously, boxing is a much bigger and more widestream sport since that fight, and that fight likely played a big part of it. So that's something that I can look back on and be proud of. I don't watch the fight back much. It's still a tough pill for me to swallow, you know. And that is the lesson that we learn, is that you can make one mistake in boxing and pay the ultimate price. And then back to unwavering self-belief, confidence, and resilience. You know, so we talk about the first fight, when you think you're going to win, you think you're a champion, you think you're walking around without a belt, and then just going to go and collect it in the biggest fight in British boxing history, and then you get your lights switched out because you switch off for a split second, and that was that, folks. And it's like, where do you go from there? We got to get back on, you know. Don't waste no time. Just get back on the train and get back to work, and plow on for whatever you can come next. But it is, you know, it took me a long time to look back on it. Maybe even had to soften the feelings towards Carl to really enjoy Wembley now. And Wembley's coming up again. There's Dillian White versus Tyson Fury, Wembley Stadium.
Trying to break the record.
Break the record. We can get 92,000 in there or something. I don't know. You can keep breaking the record. I mean, these fights, these mega fights, that they could build stadiums. There are stadiums that could fit the capacity of people that want to be there. You know, Wembley could have sold multiple times over. When I fought Carl, if he didn't knock me out so hard, then maybe we could have had one a week for one a week. Do 4 nights there, like Adele. You know, do Thursday through Sunday. Yeah. So you know, we set the precedent for Wembley. I don't know if Carl's had an invite to the Tyson Fury fight. I haven't yet. I'd like to go. I don't know. Anyone else go?
Hopefully Uncle Frank's watching.
Well, Uncle Frank
you weren't in a good mood yesterday. So.
No, okay, yeah. Well, we'll see. And then maybe they'll get us down there, and I can tell people what it's like to walk out there. Can't remember much after it, to be honest. Don't know why.
Pressure, bright lights.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Did you prepare differently for the second fight than the first?
Yeah, I mean, to certain things, definitely a lot of things were different. You know, it was the first fight was set, and I had 10 weeks, so you know, and I didn't really have a lot of trust or faith in a lot of people apart from myself at this point. So that was a liberating thing about moving away from Adam, standing on my own 2 feet. But I had to contend with like lots of, you know, legal stuff with Adam, and some of our stuff were like we shared a lawyer, so you know, I had to go out and find new legal counsel, and I find a new gym, find a new trainer, all these other things. But it was still 10 weeks out from the fight. I sort of semi-designed my training program. I knew how to do conditioning. Brought in Paddy, who I'd worked with for boxing. I knew we'd be able to put together like a little strategy for the fight, and it wasn't about reinventing the wheel against Carl Froch. I could do what I do well, and it would work. By the time we got around to the second fight, now the spotlight's on. I've got to do a bit more. I'd signed with a media agency, Wasserman, who helped take care of lots of commercial opportunities that came up, as well as lots of the logistics for Wembley Stadium, which is obviously a much bigger fight, and you're getting pulled in many different directions. The actual management side of stuff really ramped up because I'm now negotiating my purse for the rematch. I'm even hinting at putting on the show myself. Speaking to all these other promoters. Still navigating, is it going to be the rematch or not? And then I suppose maybe not the sad part, but one element that, was that the only question mark about the first fight was my conditioning. It's like, well, I was in phenomenal condition, but maybe there's always room for improvement. So, the tactics were slightly different. The training was marginally different. The boxing side of stuff, was less of a, spring off the back foot, one shot power puncher like the David Hay type fighter that I was doing a lot under Adam Booth. It was a bit more, let's just add that little bit more of being able to, punch in bunches, stick in the pocket. First fight when I didn't try and meet Cole and engage with him when we got in close. When we got in close, I'd just take a hand and just wait for the referee to break. This time we're going to get in close, I'm going to work away, and then I'm going to separate, and then I'm going to catch him long. So, and we were going to build into the fight. The second half of the fight was when we was going to really put our foot down and go. Whereas the first fight was all action from the first second. So, yeah, the tactics were slightly different in the build-up to the second fight. Dealing with the occasion, everything is for the first time. So, we're breaking new ground here. It's Wembley Stadium, 80,000 people, where everyone's listening, everyone's talking. It's going to set all these big records, and we're not heavyweights, and we're not, we're not. I mean, it didn't even exist then, but we're not social media, YouTubers or anything like this. We're just fighters. And Carl's an experienced fighter who's travelled the world for multiple world titles. He won his first world title before I'd even turned pro. So, and I didn't have anyone to lean on. Just no one to look up to. How'd you do this? Who's done this before? So it was still small little clique of team who were going to take on this mammoth challenge. So we had to sort of learn on the job and fiddle and fart our way through certain situations, but and you never know whether you're going to nail it or not until after the fight. And who knows with hindsight what we got right and what we didn't. But I felt like I got the vast majority of it right. Just came unstuck with the finish, but that'd be that.
You got Warrington against Martinez next week. The first fight was pretty close. Warrington pulled it out on points, but since then he's been stopped early. Martinez has stopped Kid Galahad early. Does that change the dynamics, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think more so that Warrington might be a slightly different fighter in that he's come he's had the loss, and then he's had to come back and rebuild from that. So he might be in a different frame of mind. He's a little bit older. Body's a little bit more weathered. Obviously, exactly the same can be said for Martinez, but he sort of feels like he's on that slightly different curve of the roller coaster of the pro game. I think Warrington is what he is, like, to a certain degree, which says on the paper. He's gonna set a really high frantic work rate and try and break your heart with the volume of punches that he throws. Must have great strength, decent punch power, but it's the sheer volume of shots that he can throw and his energy and his tenacity that that makes him the fighter he is. But so if he tries to deviate from that a touch because he's thinking about Martinez's experience, his punch power, and just his momentum at the moment, which is definitely it's definitely something to not be disregarded. Some fighters, they have momentum going into a fight, even if it's just people like us sitting around talking about what they can do. It can play a part in the fight, resonate in the back of fighters' minds and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if it'll be the same fight, but I think it will be a good fight. It will definitely be a good fight to watch. Looking forward to it.
And there's been a lot of notable rematches in recent months and years. To hear a bit more about that, we're going to go now to Lean Josh Green over in the green room.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here back in the green room once again to talk about rematches in boxing. They seem to be something that seems to be cropping up so often now in the big fights and even further down the cards. And obviously this weekend we'll be looking forward to a rematch in Kiko Martinez against Josh Warrington. And looking at their careers, they've both had a rematch or two throughout their career, starting with Kiko. I mean, he faced Mark Vidal twice in his career. That was in 2018, the first fight being ruled a draw after a head clash. He then fought him next just a few months later and won that fight and moved on from Mark Vidal. He also faced Carl Frampton twice in his career. It's a long time ago now, back in 2013 and 2014. A TKO loss in that first fight and then a unanimous decision in the second, both fights of course being held in Belfast. And Warrington similar, obviously facing Kiko for the second time, 5 years on from their first fight at the First Works Arena in Leeds. He faced Mauricio Lara a couple of times not so long ago, obviously coming off second best in the first fight, and then the rematch was ordered, and once again, as we saw with Kiko and Mark Vidal, coming out as a draw due to a head clash. There's still obviously debate as to whether there's opportunity at least for a third fight between those two. Some saying that maybe Warrington would go into that as a second favourite, but it's definitely an interesting one. If he gets past Kiko Martinez, obviously Lee Wood would possibly be on the horizon for him, but Lara is probably somebody who's lurking in the background and a possibility in future. Elsewhere, obviously Carl Froch against George Groves, a very famous rematch from British boxing history in Wembley Arena, of course. Absolutely huge fight, one of the biggest fights of the decade for sure. And more recently, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. They, of course, ended up having 3 fights over in the States. No conclusive winner from the first fight, ruled a draw, but Tyson Fury showing his dominance in the second 2 fights. Coming out a winner. So yeah, rematches are very much a big part of boxing, and for me, a good thing. If you see a draw, if there's a close fight, and the interest is there's always going to be interest in rematches down the line, especially with such big fighters and such terrific fighters as Kiko Martinez and Josh Warrington. Kiko still looking strong after that win against Kid Galahad. We'll be interested to see if he can upset the odds this weekend against Josh Warrington.
Thanks, Josh. You downgrade the Froch Groves rematch, unfortunately, by about 70,000 people placing it in the arena rather than the stadium, but we'll forgive you. You can come back next week. You're on thin ice, though. Yeah, so rematches, as you said, very tough mentally to prepare for. Kiko Martinez has been around for a long time. He's got that experience. And you said he's on a different part of the curve in the roller coaster that is boxing. What did you mean by that? Is he kind of on a second wind of his career, an Indian summer, some people have called it?
No, I mean, some fighters, they can last a long time, and I think Martinez definitely one of them. But he's winning, isn't he? He's winning. He's not the opponent, I think, going into the Warrington fight like he would have been the first time. Being in Britain and against a Brit, he might not be the favourite, but it's a lot closer than it would have been before. Warrington will be fully expecting to win, but he probably won't be quite as confident as he would have been the first time. But I might be wrong. So as I say, rematches tough, are different. Like they had that added element of, how much do I actually know about the guy in front of me? Do I prepare for the same guy, or do I, work on something new? So it just has your hedge in your bets a little bit more in your prep, which again may play out differently on fight night.
When we come back, George Groves will be answering your questions, and there's some pretty spicy ones in there, to be fair, probably better than I would have come up with. So well done to our social media followers out there. But for right now, we're just going to go over to the camps heading into the fight, Martinez and Warrington. So first of all, Warrington's dad and trainer, Sean O'Hagan, and then Martinez himself.
I think what we've got to do is we've got to forget the first fight, because I think if we took the attitude we were saying we've beat him once, we'll beat him again, I think that's the wrong way to approach it. It's a different, fresh, rejuvenated Kiko Martinez. And he's fighting at a weight that suits him, He's really, really good at feather. And like we say, Kiko is absolutely fantastic. I mean, he's had always been in tough fights. 35 years old and he's IBF world champion again. So, we've got to forget everything it passed. We've got to approach this for what it is. And that's going to be a very, very hard fight,
And does part of you kind of wish now that the Lara rematch had gone a bit longer, just so you got Josh had a few more rounds in the bank going into such a big fight this time?
Yeah, well, I'm not a big believer in ring rust. I think I'm a big believer in preparation. The first Lara fight, we didn't have, I won't make any excuses, but there were a few factors that led to events of that first fight. Second time round, we prepared differently. The preparation, the training and the camp were a lot better. And I think just accepting to fight him again were really answered a lot of questions for Josh mentally. Went into that fight, there was no way that second fight that he'd allow himself to get beat, Like I say, we did things a little bit differently. But for me, it ticked all the boxes that, needed ticking, really, that second fight. Big disappointment in how it ended, but we can't do nothing about that. But for me, he answered his questions there, and he kind of faced his demons, and I think that's enough.
And the kind of reaction to the first Lara fight, a lot of people were writing Josh off, as I'm sure you know. Did that instill kind of a resilient mentality in the camp? Prove people wrong?
Yeah, it did. I mean, we went through usual mixed emotions, if you like. There were shock, and then there were, he was very, very down for a while. And then a couple of weeks later, it's, oh man, how did I let that happen? And then you get that determination, then, right, here we go again. I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And, he really, you were asking that fight after a couple of weeks at first disappointment, So for me, what you're going to see on March the 26th is a rejuvenated, fresh, better than he's ever been, Josh Warrington. And I think that's what it's going to take to beat Kiko Martinez. But from what I've seen so far, I'm very, very excited about this fight.
Sí, con la misma mentalidad, ¿no? Con la misma mentalidad. Bueno, perdón. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Marlon. Vengo con la misma mentalidad de ganar y de ganar rápido y de volver a sorprender al mundo, porque creo que aún me queda por demostrar al mundo del boxeo, y la verdad que vengo muy ilusionado y muy contento, muy feliz de volver a reinar en el mundo.
Yeah, so I kind of come with the same mentality really, and that's to win, and to win quickly, and to surprise the world once again. This time I'm coming into it, I'm really happy, I'm really delighted to show that I can reign once again at this level.
I remember that after that fight, we talked about the Galahad rematch, we talked about other fights as well, but the fight that you were quite insistent on was the Josh Warrington fight. You believe you should have won that fight last time, and this time you believe you'll win again. Do you believe you'll win this fight inside the distance?
Sí, obviamente, después de la pelea hablamos de la próxima pelea, la posibilidad de hacer la revancha con Kid Galahad, pero tú insistías que querías la revancha con Josh Warrington porque pensaste que ganaste. ¿Piensas que vas a ganar, lo vas a noquear esta vez y no va a la distancia?
Sí, tengo que salir a noquearlo, volveré a ganarle, pero esta vez más rápido y sin ninguna duda.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I need to go out. I'll go out once again to beat him, as I think I did last time, but this time I'll have to do it a bit quicker and get the KO.
Welcome back. So now it's time to go to social media. Always, full of kind, kind, nice comments we've seen in the last few days. They've come up with some great questions, I feel, for George Groves. So I hope you're ready. Daniel Allen with the first one from Twitter. He said, would you have retired at the same stage of your career if you didn't have the compromised shoulder?
Yeah. So that was my goal. Multiple times in my career, I was like, where's my exit strategy? But then I won the WBA Super Middleweight Championship of the World in 2017, and just before then I'd signed in for the World Boxing Super Series, which was going to be 3 fights in 12 months. Some really good money, and some more belts, and hopefully some big fights. And it was going to, this was a brand new tournament that they'd spent a lot of money on, that we were very excited about, and it was going to be something very prestigious that I wanted to win and go out on that high. I'd been 30, it would have been 10 years as a pro. All the things, there's quite a few things that I measure success for in boxing, but it helped me fulfill the rest of them, and I just love the idea of leaving with a little bit left on the table. Ideally I'd love to have won that fight against Smith in the final, but I was so adamant that I had to have that fight that it moved heaven and earth to get as fit as I could for it, and to even just make the fight happen. So that was always going to be my last fight. You never say never, even now. But I'm still only 33. So
George Groves hints at comeback headline.
George Groves thinks about the diet and it's like, boxing, as I say, I dip my toe in every now and again, and I'm in the gym from time to time, never really boxing, but keeping fit. And then to do it for pleasure and to do it for work is two totally different things. That actually to be on the hook for having to do it is tough. I don't have any regrets or look back. I don't even miss it, which is bizarre, So it was always going to be the last fight.
And Daniel Allen also says, not a question, but you were one of the most exciting fighters I've ever seen with an elite ring walk.
Yep, I agree.
Brilliant. This one's, I believe you know this person, Dan Lawrence at Perform 365.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
He says, how are your legs feeling after yesterday's training session?
Easy. So me and Dan, we went to a gym together and we trained legs, and it was a good session. I thought we was going to train hard, but we didn't. We just pulled and pushed a little bit, and legs are good. Split squat, he's getting better at it, so good for him. Dan has a delicate back, which I'm not even entirely sure about. I hope he listens back, because he's really fragile with the back, but mentally fragile. We need to get him dipping.
Not physically fragile.
No, he's strong. You look at him; he looks the part. He's super strong, but he don't back himself on the back. So he don't back himself. So well done, Dan. Yeah, he needs to bring something back. Good for Dan. Good question, Dan. Legs are good.
Good, glad to hear it. Legs are shaky, Adam.
Yeah.
Andy White has posed 3 questions, and normally we wouldn't let so many come from the same person, but they're all quite good, and they're ones that I'd be a bit nervous about asking myself, so I can just blame him.
Yep.
Question 1, and I know you've already looked at this because you've been looking at the phone, but why did you really fall out with Adam Booth?
It's the same as I've answered before. Like, this, what are people actually really hoping for? No, we our relationship came to a sort of a natural end. It was. I got a lot of time for Adam. I used to have a lot of time for Adam, and then we just our relationship has sort of run its course. And he was a great coach for me at the start of my career. And I appreciate the work he did with me. But we, over the years, our relationship became strained, and we had a few fallings out. And the last one was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And I'm sure he'll see it a different way. He's not here to argue his case, but I'm now mandatory challenger for a world title against Carl Froch, and we had a disagreement, and I just felt like, well, if you haven't got my back now, you're not as willing and able to commit to this fight as much as I am, and I'd rather go it alone than go it with you and be a compromised version of myself. So that was what it was,
You've spoken to him since?
No. We bumped into each other straight after the fight. Someone caught it on camera. It was like a bit of an emotional moment. He was upset, I was upset. We met up to before the second fight. We met up to talk amicably about how to sort of bring our agreement to an end to it. I was under a management contract with him. He no longer wanted to manage me, and I no longer wanted him to manage me. So that had to be seen up, and we did that, and then. We've sort of been in the same room a couple of times, but I think out of awkwardness, neither of us have sort of broke the ice. Don't know what would happen if we did. Some days I'd smile at him. Some days maybe not. Depends what the traffic was like on the way. Time's a sort of softener. Do you know what I mean? If people are shocked that if I can get on with Carl Froch, and I can now. So I don't think I'm definitely not best buds with Adam. I don't think he would be me either. But I don't what I mean. I don't despise him or hate him. But there's nothing really that juicy or scandalous to say about it. It's just me and him. If me and him ever do end up in a room together, we can decide what it was, because I'm not sure what he thinks.
Well, next up on Andy White's personal crusade to trigger you, he says, was George really okay in the first fight with Froch when the ref waved it off?
I wasn't okay. I was absolutely gutted because Howard Foster had stopped the fight for absolutely no reason. Carl paints this fantastic picture of I'm a championship level fighter and the tide was changing, and I was just coming on strong, and I'd hit him with this big right hand, this big left hook, and then this is when we're doing our little talk together, and then I go, okay, let's play the screen, and I'm like, that shot missed. You hit me with your shoulder, I bounce off the ropes, I'm still punching back, I landed that shot, you caught me, but I'm still fine. And Howard Foster stopped the fight. Okay. And then if we really want to take it back the round before, because he has a terrible sixth round where he gets punched all over the ring and I land huge shots. And the momentum, he doesn't take the same sort of pace in the seventh and eighth, but he still doesn't win the rounds. He's still not really getting into the fight. He's not winning the ninth. I'm sure he's planning for a big onslaught in the championship rounds, and I'm planning to be there for as long as need be. I'm fully prepared and the best shape of my life. I'm a championship level fighter. I've been 12 rounds with Glenn Johnson, with James DeGale, with maybe a couple others as well. I'd been a championship level fighter since my 9th fight. So I'd done the camps, I'd done the leg work, I'd done everything. I was ready and willing and able to go out on my sword. And sometimes, again, there's a bit of empathy there for Carl, that if he truly believes that he would have got rid of me, he never had the chance of doing it, and Howard Foster robbed him with that chance as well. But to answer the question, no, I was absolutely fine. Looked tired, but it's the 9th round of a very physical fight. I've been landing heavy shots from the get-go. Carl Froch is very, very tired as well, but we have slightly different postures. He gunslinger anyway, he punches from his waist. I have the low left hand. The back position might look slightly more compromised now. I've got this pale skin, starting to go a bit red. Mouth's open because my nose has been broke since 2011, so I can't breathe through it. So, yeah, sure, tired. No disputing that, but too tired to and need saving. Never.
Did you ever speak to Howard Foster about it after that night?
No, I never spoke to him since. I mean, he's ref my fights, he's judged my fights and ref my fights since, but we never spoke about it. I think it's probably right that the boxing board of control don't allow their officials to speak after a fight. I know the fans are desperate for it, and now there's since the Catchall fight, now they're trying to really put pressure on for that, but it won't happen, and in some ways it shouldn't. At the end of the day, these officials are human, and they will make mistakes. But is it really in their interest to admit to a mistake? I would love Howard Foster to pull me one side one day in quiet, in confidence, and say, "Yeah, sorry about that, mate. Yeah, got it well wrong." But he don't, and that's fine. That's okay. We go on.
And rounding off the Andy White show, he says, "Have you made up with James DeGale?"
Not yet. As he's on the bucket list. We've got to get him soon. I'm sure. I'm not. Like, me and James, we're not entirely a million miles away from each other. We have lots of mutual friends, I have friends that bump into him, and I'm sure vice versa. So, it'll happen. It'll happen one day. But then again, sometimes it's nice to wake up in the morning and have someone to hate and moan about, And I don't. It's getting harder and harder to actually dislike him because I don't. There's no reason for me to really dislike him. So, but every now and again, I'll just throw him under the bus, on a podcast or something. But James is actually all right, I suppose.
Today's not one of those days.
Yeah, today, no, he's all right, James. We're working on it. He's on the to-do list.
And this one comes from Gary Young. He says, "Who do you feel would have won between Froch and Joe Calzaghe, who was born in the same hospital as you?"
Yeah. Calzaghe, not Froch. He wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't even think he was born. I think he was just.
He was created in a lab.
Yeah. Everyone has to. You have to say Calzaghe, but I'd like to have seen it. I think Calzaghe sometimes would have slightly off days. I think on their best days, I think he would have just been too sharp. For Froch, I don't think Froch would have been able to land one of them big shots. Probably been a wide points win for Calzaghe, but I'd love to have seen it. And Calzaghe's has been dropped. He got off the floor to win world title fights and stuff like that. And but there's nothing clever about Froch, even though he's very good. He's got a good long jab. He punches correctly to a certain degree in terms of he can get the range in. He can step into his shots quite well, and he can punch himself out of a bad situation at times. But I probably would edge with Calzaghe if both were on song on their night.
And this is the last question from our followers. And remember, if you want to ask questions to our guest on You Don't Know Shit About Boxing, just go to our Twitter or our Instagram. Tom Wong, not sure that's his real name, to be honest, looking at the profile picture, but hey, I'm not judging. He asks, who was the most difficult person you sparred in a camp, whether because of skill, fitness, or just because they were better than you? Either you as the sparring partner or someone you brought in.
What's that last? Who's better?
No. So he's saying it doesn't matter whether you were the sparring partner brought into someone else's.
Oh right, yeah, gotcha.
Who was the most difficult?
The one that always flies to mind is I used to go and spar the Darrell brothers in Miami, South Beach, before the James DeGale fight, and there was a lot of pressure on being James DeGale, and I had to stick to this back foot sort of. Long, double range strategy where we was going to sort of just pot shot and shoot and move. And I went out to Miami to find some good sparring, some good southpaw sparring, and Andre Darrell was out there, and he was tough, like real tough, physically very strong, great athlete, very slick, like new. Just experience I'd imagine being in the American gyms, sparring the guys, and we get to the gym and say, "Hi, what we spar tomorrow?" Yeah, sure, man. Whatever you want, anything for you. Like, really? Okay, great. What time do you want to spar? Whatever time you want to spar. tell us what time we'll be there. Okay, 11? Yep, 11. Get there at 5 to 11. It's Miami. It's 90 odd degrees outside. The doors open. You know, it's a fitness gym where people can just literally wander in and train and spar and do what they want. It's like, I bet he's late today. He'd show up at 1:45. You're like, okay, yeah, I get it. Not even an apology, nothing. Just come in, put his bag down. Hey Andre, how you getting on? Yeah, good. What have you been up to? Oh, we just had to go and change our rental car. Great. Is that why you're 2 hours late? Yeah. And we're sparring, and you know, it could take him ages to glove up and get ready, and then you know, the bell starts and you start sparring, and 30 seconds in, he's like, oh, wait, move that water bottle. Okay. Oh, wait, restart that clock. Oh, dude, no filming. He's not filming. He hasn't even got a phone in his hand. And he's just killing the clock, and then he would come in there. But he was, so it was tough to learn that stuff on the job, but priceless. And as well as him being a really good fighter, really, really good fighter. He was catching me with like a lead uppercut, maybe off the southpaw stance, which is a really muggy shot to get hit with. Like, I mean, you've been kicked in the jaw, you know, earlier, but you know, the lead uppercut, you don't want to be getting hit by that, and he could generate some real good power from it as well. But yeah, it was fantastic sparring. Learned a lot in a tough environment, and it was red hot. David Hayes took me out to Miami. I lived with him. He rented a big house out there. He was training for Klitschko, and he would take the spars because Adam wasn't there. So yeah, like he was great. Like, felt like we bonded a little bit on that trip because he would look after me for the sparring. And you know, it was, and living at his house. It was a great experience. Other than that, you know, it was a couple of Sergey. I can never remember his last name. Sergey, good friend of mine now. Used to bring him over he used to spar Golovkin and all these top guys out in the Universum gyms in Germany and stuff like that. And he used to bash the granny out of me for like the early part of my career. And then as I got a bit better, you know, I could hold my own. And then in the end, I was a bit too much for him. But he was great work. But yeah, I'll stick with Darrell.
All right, well, thank you to Tom Wong and all the other people who submitted questions for George. Now you will be facing a different line of questioning.
Yep.
Under the spotlight, in the hot seat, from Miss Georgia Banks.
So, Mr. George Groves, this game is called The Worst People in the World.
Yep.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. The worst people in the world. People who hog gym equipment and sit on their phone, or people who spar like they're competing and injure others.
People who sit in the gym on their phone.
Dead annoying, isn't it?
It's unforgivable. I like people who spar hard and try and hurt people in the gym. It's quite entertaining.
The little slasher hook. There you go.
Yep.
The worst people in the world are people who put clips on Smith machines, or people who don't ever wash their wraps.
People who put clips on Smith machines. I mean, I'm a clipper, but on the free weight section, you know, like I don't give it the Billy Biggin and try and deadlift without a clip on the side. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to slip a disc. I am that guy. But washing wraps, I mean, sporadically, like maybe, but hang them up and they dry. That'll do. I like. You know, I like the ambience of a sweaty wrap.
Thank you for that image. People who pretend to be out of breath on their way out of the gym, or people that stand too close to you while skipping and keep whipping you.
I don't know. I've never seen anyone walk out the gym and pretend to be out of breath, to be honest. But that might be me. That might be me. So people who, I mean, I don't like that inappropriate. When you have no spatial awareness, you know, you skip on you. Like some people do shadow, and they shadow shadow boxing really close to you. It's a bit creepy as well. So I'd go with that one.
People who keep talking to you through circuits, or cyclists that ride two abreast on country roads.
I'll go with the cyclists. But if you hit one, it's not the end of the world, is it? Maybe for them, but yeah, but no one talks to me during a circuit. I don't think I'm very approachable, so I never really had to stress about that problem. We go with the cyclists.
People who don't put their weights back in the gym, or people who post really vague statuses on social media, like they tag themselves into the hospital and then air everyone.
Well, there's only one winner there, really, isn't there? It's the people who tag themselves on social media. Most people on social media, anyway, in general. I don't discriminate. I dislike them all.
People who eat with their mouths open, or people who don't ever bring a towel to training.
People who eat with their mouths open, I think that's a bit much, really, isn't it? We've all done it. We've all done it, but we've also all forgot to bring a towel to the gym. Most people don't get sweaty enough to need a towel. I'll go with the mouth eating.
People that kick the spit bucket and stir up the smell, or people that leave empty water bottles in the side of the ring.
Kick the spit bucket and stir up the smell.
Never kicked it. Never
What gym were you
knocked
training
it.
in? Like St. Mickey's gym, the 1960s? Like, I don't know. What was the second option, sorry?
People that leave empty water bottles on the side of the ring.
Yeah, empty water bottles beside the ring. We never had water when we was at the Dale in the olden days. Like, we were made different, you know. There was a tap at the back, which at the end of the session, you could hang your sweaty face over and run it over your mouth and dribble it out everywhere before the next man. And that was the best you got. I don't want to see water bottles in gyms. Not in amateur gyms, anyway.
And last one, people who phlegm in the sink and don't wash it away, or drivers that don't wave thank you when you let them out.
I'm big into like the correctness of polite, you know, etiquette within driving. There's a few things I don't like it when a pedestrian tells me to stop. I don't know if that's ever happened to anyone. Or they tell me I can go. That's even worse. Like, I'm in the car. I think the choice is with me. And I don't know, I've never caught anyone phlegming in the sink. I mean, that is pretty brutal. That would win if it existed, but I don't think it exists. Surely people don't phlegm in the sink.
Most of the time it's just on the floor, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I would aim for. Someone else's coat or something, yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Lovely.
So that was interesting. Really appreciate you all watching. We're now available on all major podcasting platforms. So get subscribing on Apple Music, Spotify. What other ones are there? Come on, Georgia, help me out. YouTube, of course, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Don't forget YouTube. Really appreciate you all watching. George, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you as a guest. Hasn't it, Georgia?
It's been all right.
Yeah, Georgia don't care. I was one who wanted.
No, thanks for having us on. No, I look forward to it. Hopefully, this little setup, long may it continue and grow and develop. Episode 2, I got in early, so I can take claim for any future success. So it was all built off this episode.
Might be true, to be fair.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
Thanks very much.